You're listening to the Career Diaries with Brianna or Sherry, where each week we laugh and learn with industry experts, talk through the highs and lows of their career journeys, and unlock the secrets to career success in any field. Email bri@careerdiariespodcast.com. That's BRI@careerdiariespodcast.com with your burning career questions to get them answered on the show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Career Diaries podcast. Today, I am joined by Daniel Moore. He is the head of inbound marketing at Tonkean. How's it going, Dan?
It's going well, Bree. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat with you. So for those listening in, I used to work with Dan at my former company, Tonkean. We were there together for 2 years. We started at the same time, and he's since, stuck it out and been there for 4. And when I joined, you were a content writer. So when I saw your new title, I was like, whoa, this is awesome. So I'm excited to chat about that. I'm excited to chat also about some of the writing you do on the side. I think writing as a career in general can be extremely difficult. And you've managed to not only make a successful career out of it, but also maintain your passions. And I think that's really admirable. So I want to chat about that today. Before we jump into the conversation, would love to hear about, what your current role is, what you've been working on, what's been going on for the last 2 years. Just catch me up in 2 seconds.
Sure thing. So over at Tonkean, as you mentioned, I manage our inbound marketing motion. So that encompasses everything from our top of funnel content that we use to acquire leads and build brand awareness, just kind of broadly in the market, white papers, ebooks, blogs. I run our podcast. Maybe we'll have to have you on one day in the future. And so that's the lion's share of it. But there are other pieces as well. I manage our PR apparatus, manage our social. So it's a lot. We're a small but mighty team, and I'm kind of in charge of that part of it. It's a lot of fun, very interesting. As you mentioned, I also, in whatever free time I can squirrel away, am pursuing my dream to write and to be read, and that is, as ever, a toilsome passion to be pursuing, but it seems like people have been enjoying, or the writing been resonating recently with readers, and so that's been good. It's been encouraging to see. I think that's all any writer can really ask for in the end.
I mean, it's huge. I want to chat about that. I want to say congratulations. You were nominated for the Dan Jenkins Medal of Excellence in Sports Writing. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a bit of a surprise, but it feels good and is reinforcing in a way to know that I'm not just shouting into the void, which is how it can feel sometimes when you're pecking away at your laptop in the middle of the night. But yeah, surprise, but huge honor. The other nominees for that award are some of my favorite writers and people I've looked up to for a long time. So to be included among them felt good.
That's incredible. So what piece was nominated?
It was an essay I wrote last year for The Ringer about the relocation of the Oakland A from Oakland to Las Vegas. I know that is to discuss that relocation is not the point of this interview. We could talk about it a long time. Suffice to say that I think wrapped up in that event are elements of, in a way, everything that's wrong with the sports industry and the way it operates today. How it prioritizes the profits and inclinations of billionaires over the best interests of communities and fans. It's all happening sort of in microcosm in Oakland right now. If you're at all interested in sport and in the business of sport and want to read 8,000 words on me complaining about it, check it out. It's on theringer.com.
Okay, well, I actually do want to talk about the piece. So,
Great.
so they took the Warriors out of Oakland, took them from Oracle to the brand new Chase Center. I'm a huge Warriors fan. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see my Wiggins poster behind me. And I lived in San Francisco for like 13 years, so it was inconvenient for me to go to Oracle to watch the Warriors, but also I could afford it, and it was just it was part of the experience. And now the new Chase Center is beautiful. I can't complain as like an attendee at all, but I definitely felt like that was the beginning of this, but maybe it goes back further.
I mean, in Oakland, it does go back a little bit further, but I think the gist of what you're saying, it totally resonates, right? For me, one key thing that makes sports worth caring about and that kind of elevates interest in a sports team beyond interest in any other kind of entertainment or consumer product is that idea of representation and how a team is tied to a community and to a place. When you root for the Warriors, or rather, 10 years ago, when you were rooting for the Warriors, when you were rooting for Andrew Wiggins, you weren't just rooting for the Warriors, you were rooting for Oakland in a real way. And so to divorce a team from the community it represents, I think, drains much of the point out of sports. And for me, at any rate, really takes a lot of the romanticism out of it. So whether you're talking the Warriors or the Raiders or the A, the East Bay has been experiencing that firsthand for the last decade.
I was just about to bring up the Raiders. I mean, Vegas is just spending money like I've never seen. I mean, you have the new, what is it, that orb there, and then you
The
have
Sphere.
and then you have F1 tracks being built. Like, what is happening in Vegas right now?
They're really investing in their sports entertainment industry, hoping that I think that it will galvanize economic development, put Vegas on the major league map, so to speak. I've written about this too recently in The Atlantic, sort of about this craze of subsidizing professional sports or cities subsidizing professional sport. And much of the time it's a fool's errand. Study after study shows that spending public resources on privately valuable sports sports franchises and stadiums and F1 tracks actually does not generate anywhere near the economic benefit to justify that public investment. I think what you're going to see with the A's is that's going to play out in an even more extreme way. There's a world where you can squint and say, okay, subsidizing the Raiders brought NFL to Las Vegas. No doubt it will be more expensive for Las Vegas and for Nevada taxpayers than they were led to believe. But there are certain potential, intangible benefits that you could see if you squint, maybe. Not so, I think, with these other investments that they're making. But I wish them luck.
Yeah, right. You don't wish them luck.
No further comment.
All right, so we're going to talk about your day job in a minute. But you're a contributing writer to like San Francisco Chronicle, The Ringer, Baseball, Prospectus. Like, how do you secure all of these gigs?
Relentless, annoying pitching is the main way. So when I have an idea for a story and I do some research into it and start conducting preliminary interviews and whatnot, I get an idea in my head of what outlet it might be a fit for, and then I try to get in an editor's ear there as best I can. And the failure rate is much higher than the success rate when it comes to securing new gigs. it took me, I mentioned that Atlantic piece that I wrote. It took me many months and annoying emails of me reaching out to the editors there for them to kind of give me a green light. So persistence is one way. The other way, and what's been important, I'd say two things. Having a good story and having done your homework and, being able to sort of prove that you're going to be able to deliver on some goods. And then building a track record of doing that helps over time. But it's also, as in many other lines of work, relationship building, right? And so when you build relationships with and trust among editors at a different outlet, that sort of lends you a kind of legitimacy, or at least it helps people believe in you, and that accrues over time. And I think I learned that the importance of relationships and investing in those relationships probably a little later than I would have liked in my writing career. But yeah, focusing on that has been helpful.
I can relate. I feel like in my early career, I moved so fast, like almost like the startup theory of like move fast and break things applied to like your career almost. At least for me, it did. And I feel like, yeah, taking that time to develop those relationships is so much more important than people realize.
Yeah, 100%. And you bring up this idea of taking your time. I find that whether it's in pitching new stories to new editors, or even just in the actual work itself of writing good stuff, that patience really is a virtue, and taking some time to step away from the work in progress, to step away from the email you're writing or the idea you're trying to refine. Um, it allows you a certain sense of remove from the thing, which gives you perspective on what maybe is missing from it, or what you missed in your first go at it. So forcing yourself to be patient and to give whatever it is that you're working on some time to breathe and reveal its flaws. That's been, I think, really important in my work, kind of across the board too.
It's huge and it applies to any work you're doing, right? And patience is not my virtue. It's actually my like biggest. I have zero patience. And so it really resonates with me because I find when I really take my time and really dig into something, the results are so much more not only valuable but enjoyable. So
Yeah, and it's unintuitive too. I mean, I find when you're really kind of in the flow of a thing in that first draft, it can often feel like the best thing in the world, and you're like, oh, okay, this is good to go. When I was younger, in my 20s, I would write a pitch, say, or write a first draft, and I'd be convinced of its genius, and I'd be okay, I got to send this out right now. And then it was only in the sober light of the subsequent hours that you would go back and be like, man, I really rushed that, and you'd be able to see everything that was missing or overblown, or you're long-winded about it. But yeah, you have to build a certain muscle memory around forcing yourself to do that, to step away.
another thing about being a writer too is being so open to criticism. And I think that is especially true in the case of writers, but also is a skill that in your career is so important, being able to take criticism, not have it ruin you, but also be like, okay, these are the ways I can actually improve and become better at my job, and seeing that as a positive thing is
Mhm.
so important, and being able to take it well is so important. But yeah, especially for a writer.
Yeah, and Bill Hader has a really interesting quote about this, specific to screenwriting, but he talks about just the value of feedback, but also he speaks about the importance of um, being able to kind of sift through feedback to find the valuable parts of it. In almost every response that you get from someone on something that you've worked on, there will be valuable insights to derive from it. Often it's the high level stuff. And so, like, if I show you a draft of something that I'm working on, your gut level reaction is very valuable to me as a writer, or as, if it's a new product I'm building, whatever it is, because, what you want, the reaction that you want to engender in your audience, and when you don't get that. And so it's like, okay, I didn't get that reaction that I wanted there. There's something, there's a kernel of truth to that feedback that you just gave me. But what Bill Hader says is that often when you kind of move to a level of specificity, like kind of a level down, below that abstract initial gut reaction level, that's when you have to be a bit more, a bit harsher with what feedback that you really interpret. I mean, it differs if you're working with someone who is like, a mentor, or, established and experienced in the thing that you're doing. Like when I'm working with my editors at a place like The Atlantic or The Ringer, they're almost always right. But, if it's more of a colleague kind of situation or a friend, as Hader says, there are specific prescriptions for how to achieve that better or improved kind of reaction outcome are almost always wrong. So I agree with you 100%, but you do need to be discerning, and build that muscle too, about what is valuable feedback and what will actually lead me down the wrong road, if you follow it.
That's also patience too, right? To sit with your feedback that you receive and say, okay, let me really break this down in my mind and really think it through. So kind of goes
Right.
back, yeah, the patience thing. So I want to talk about what you do at Tonkean. So you gave a high level overview of what you work on. I want to talk about how quickly you were promoted time after time. How did that come about? Um, I have a lot of contextual history on my end. Tonkean is a small company. It's a startup, but it's small but very mighty. It's an awesome company. I love that company. And they always promote the right people, I think. So yeah, I'm curious to know sort of what that journey's been like.
Well, I came to Tonkin as a contractor. I was a ghostwriter for Sagi, the CEO and co-founder. Uh, he brought me on to help him write essays and articles that would appear in, I think we landed pieces in Fast Company and Crunchbase, Business Insider, a bunch of cool different places. And I think, that went well. And eventually they said, hey, we want to bring you on full time to kind of do this, not just for Sagi, but to, write all of our stuff, all of our top of funnel, content marketing materials. And so that's how it started. And, I've sort of been in charge of that function to varying degrees of, kind of official recognition ever since. And, I agree that I think that this company promotes the right people and values just good work. And so, it's always been, it's the outputs that matter most at Tonkin. Um, and, uh, I'm not sure what to attribute my, it feels weird to say success, but, I think my work with Tonkin has gone well. Just in part, I think back to what we were talking about earlier, just sort of that the relationships piece. You know, um, there are great, smart people here, and I've just tried to make myself available to them and to learn from them as much as I can, especially when it comes to compensating for where I fall short in terms of my skill set. I am in not any way technical, which can be a problem for you know AI and automation startup like Tonkin. But what I can do is I can tell a story, and I can I think articulate certain of the more salient and um, interesting aspects of a message, depending on the audience. And so, uh, working with people like Sagi, who are incredibly technical, to build up that knowledge set, I think has made the collaboration fruitful over time.
Yeah, I hear you on that. And I want to chat about, yeah, the way that you sort of approach writing as a non-technical person. I think a lot of people listening in are working in tech, but might not be on the technical teams, maybe more go-to-market teams. So how do you sort of bridge that gap?
Finding people who are technical and smart and just listening and learning from them as best you can. And also reading, researching, continually investing in your own knowledge to that end, both about, internally in the context of the product, but also for me, sort of where I sit in the marketing org, that's totally at the top of the funnel. So you need a solid understanding of the problems that your audience is facing, what problems are uh, most, compelling or important to them, and providing stuff of real tangible value. And so, all writing it hinges on actually knowing what you're talking about. And so, readers can see through BS very quickly. And the way I think to mitigate that is with specificity and with a genuine understanding of the material. And so if you don't have that, you're dead in the water. And so in a way, that's kind of the first step for everything that I do here at Tonkean and in everything that I write. And there are a variety of resources to find that information. No shortage of smart people here at Tonkean, but also no shortage of great and important research and work that's been done by other people that, is a Google click away.
Yeah, people, do your research. Gosh darn it.
I will say in this age of ChatGPT and AI, it can feel easy to skimp on that part. So it's not, you're not hectoring without reason here when you're telling your audience to do your research and to do your homework. I know that as a reader, when I feel like I'm reading something that the person only has a surface level understanding of the thing, I click away to one of the millions of other, things that are striving for my attention at the moment. So like you said, do your research, do your homework.
Do your homework before you put anything out there. Okay. So we're over time. Do you have time for a listener question?
Sure.
All right, cool. So we have listener question. We have a couple, but I'll just read one this week. It's from Zach. So he asked, did you have any mentors along the way in your career? How did they help you? And how do you suggest others seek mentors out?
I totally have had mentors. One that comes to mind before out of college, I was a teacher. I did a program called Teach for America. And my first year, I was teaching in New Orleans. I had a co-teacher in my classroom. Her name is Nicole Jarbo. He went on after her stint in Teach for America to start a variety of companies, consulting firms, tech companies. And it was her actually, it's sort of in my 20s, I'm a young professional. I think I was doing customer success after my teaching career, and I knew I wanted to be a writer, and I didn't really know how to do it. And he was the one who sort of just pushed me. I think her exact words were, you got to burn the boat. You got to just, make the jump and do it. Several years later, I was ghostwriting for the GE and, had a pool of clients that I was writing for, and was writing for magazines and stuff. And that's hardly the only good advice that she gave me. I've been looking to her sort of for entrepreneurial guidance of all kinds since. So that's one example of, she's been a life mentor as much as a professional mentor. How do you find people like that? I think one thing that comes to mind is putting yourself in a position to meet them. And so what I mean by that, putting yourself out there and doing hard things and involving yourself with organizations that are engaged in the kind of work that you want to be doing. The people who are leading those organizations, the people who are doing the work that you want to do, those are potential mentors. But you will not meet them unless you, are sort of there alongside them or in that organization in a position to impress yourself upon them. The other thing is, don't be afraid to ask. I'm having lunch tomorrow with the editor-in-chief of the San Francisco Chronicle sports section, just to pick her brain. And, I think that's an example of a place where I have written. I would love to write more. She's, an incredible writer and editor whose career I would love to emulate. And so, ask, see if you can begin to build that relationship. And in my experience, mentors are more than amenable and often totally interested in meeting with potential mentees and sharing what they've learned. So don't be afraid.
I love to hear that. Thank you, Dan. I really appreciate chatting with you today. It's been really nice to catch up. I'm so proud of all your success. So to close out, what's the best place for people to get in touch with you if they want to follow up with any questions?
Yeah. You can go to my website, www.danmorewriter.com. You can also find me on, unfortunately, X is the, I still want to call it Twitter, but that's, I share my writing and stuff there. And you can DM me there, or I have all my contact information on my website. So that's probably best.
All right, cool. We'll link it in the show notes. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Bree. Appreciate you having me on.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Career Diaries podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a 5-star review to help get word out about the show. Email bree@careerdiariespodcast.com with your burning career questions to get them answered on the podcast. And be sure to subscribe so you never miss another conversation.